everyone. Good evening. Good evening, good evening. Isn't it wonderful to be back? 3 years, and we're back in person, CBC. I want to thank our illustrious Chairwoman, Joyce Beatty, for your years of service for the Congressional Black Caucus and to our nation. So as we gather here, I know that all of us also have in mind the people of Puerto Rico and Florida and South Carolina. And as President Biden has said, we will stand by you for as long as it takes. And I will reiterate, we will stand by you. Now, for tonight, we gather once again at the Phoenix Dinner with so many friends and our CBC family. The first time I attended this dinner, I was in college at Howard University. You know. And as a United States Senator, I attended this dinner as a CBC member. And tonight, I, of course, attend this dinner as Vice President of the United States. This year's conference theme, Advancing Our Purpose and Elevating Our Power, truly captures the spirit and the purpose of CBC, because that is what CBC does. In a moment, you will hear from the President about the progress we have made together, a President who chose CBC members and staff to serve at every level of our government, including our outstanding Secretary of the Housing and Urban Development Agency, Madam Secretary Marcia Fudge. And together with this caucus, we place equality, equity, and justice at the center of our work. And I will highlight just two of the many examples that demonstrates why that matters. With the CBC, we invested an historic $5.8 billion, that's B with a B, billion dollars in our HBCUs. Knowing that our HBCUs are some of our best institutions of academic excellence. And speaking of history, many of us were together yesterday morning for the investiture of the first Black woman to serve on the United States Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. And this, all of it, was made possible because we elevated our power and advanced our purpose. But we still have so much more to do. And we need the leadership of this organization now more than ever. Leadership that has the proven ability to see America as it can be, unburdened by what has been. Leadership that is grounded and has always been in fundamental rights, including the importance of justice for all people. Leadership that represents not just the Congress, not just the conscience of the Congress, but the conscience of our country. We gather in unsettled times. I have seen that as I have traveled across this nation and around the world as your vice president. And you have seen it too. Ideals and freedoms that we thought were long established and are now under threat Overseas, it includes the threat to the sovereignty of independent nations. And at home, threats to a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. Threats to a voter's right to cast a ballot and have it counted. And threats to the right of every citizen to lead and live free from hate and violence. These long-held freedoms now hang in the balance. So in this moment, what are we then called to do? Well, CBC, let us take a lesson from our history. During one of my most recent conversations with Ambassador Andrew Young, he told me about the time that he and Dr. Martin Luther King met with President Lyndon Johnson in 1964 to push for the passage of the Voting Rights Act. President Johnson had just passed the Civil Rights Act and told them he could not pass another bill. He said, I just do not have the power. So Dr. King turned to Ambassador Young and said, well, we are going to get the president some power. And that is exactly what they did. In elections that year, they organized, advocated, and protected access to the ballot. They got the president the power to pass the Voting Rights Act the very next year. We have a job to do. We have a job to do, because in this room, we have the power we need to get it done. And we have a president who works every single day to elevate that power even higher, to advance that purpose even further. My fellow Americans, it is my honor to introduce the President of the United States, Joe Biden.